heard of him. He's America's #1 youth motivator, top Hispanic speaker, featured on ABC, NBC, Fox, and ESPN. Hired to motivate over 1 million students, staff, and parents across the U.S. at places such as Harvard, Texas A&M, and over 1,000 schools from New York City to Los Angeles. Played Division I football at prestigious Georgetown University football, and he was a player and started for 2 years. I don't know what that means. And broke the record at McDonald's for the most Happy Meals eaten in one day. Please welcome our speaker, Jonathan Medina. Welcome, Jonathan. Where is Jonathan?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be with all of you guys. I love seeing everyone's faces. Thank you, Jose and Erica, Vanessa, Elsa, Geneva. I can see Cynthia there. I can see Jessica. I can see Ron, Dr. E.T. I was listening to her message earlier this morning. She did a phenomenal job for you guys yesterday. So before I go on, I want to ask everyone, tell me where you are. I spent 6 hours driving from Lubbock, Texas yesterday just to get to San Antonio because I'm doing events tomorrow in the area. But I'm in San Antonio, Texas right now. Yesterday, I was in the snow. Tell me, please tell me, get in the chat and tell me where you are right now. Go ahead and get in the chat. We're going to be engaged right away. We're going to tell me where you are. Dr. E.T. is at home in Westlaco, Texas. Dr. Quesada is at the central office. Love it, love it. Harlingen Brownsville, love it, love it. Love seeing where everyone's at. Awesome, awesome. Love it, love it. Lyford, home with Sam Nito. And Dr. E.T., do you mind putting me as the main screen? And I'm going to share my screen. I think I have to become the host again. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
You're the host now, Jonathan. Okay, there you go.
Yes. And so I'm so excited to be with all of you guys today here at the Bilingual Symposium. But I do want to also say thank you to Dr. Quesada for that introduction. Just a few days ago, I was introduced at a school. It was not a school where there's a lot of bilingual students, but there was one girl in the front. She's a Hispanic young lady. And after the introduction, it was a little boy who looked up to me. And the person who was introducing me, she didn't do what Dr. Quesada did. She was super hyped up. I don't know if she was watching wrestling all weekend long or something, but maybe she was watching NFL games, but she was super hyped up and she said, standing 6'4", weighing 300 pounds. And I felt a little bit embarrassed because I thought there's no reason that all these kids need to know that I weighed 300 pounds. And in fact, I don't actually weigh 300 pounds. I know a lot of people were saying that during COVID, maybe they've gained some weight. I've actually trimmed down. I've been very disciplined, or basically because all the restaurants in the Valley have been closed. I didn't get to go eat the way I normally do while I've been on the road. And so I've actually trimmed down. So I'm very proud to tell you guys that I do not weigh 300 pounds anymore. Now I only weigh 299 pounds. And so when I first got to college, though, I was speaking to elementary students and middle school students yesterday. So they always want to ask me, how did I get so big? And so I tell them that when I first got to college, I was actually very, very small. When I first got to college, when I left the Valley, when I got to the university, I went to Georgetown University. I'm playing football. My coach looked at me and he went right in the eyes. My coach looked at me and my coach told me, you are too small. See, I was tiny when I got to college. Right now, you're seeing me 6'4", 300 pounds. You might be thinking I'm a huge man, especially when I'm in the Valley. I stick out really, really bad. But when I first got to college, I was tiny. I was little. My coach told me, like I said, I was very, very small. See, when I first got to college, I only weighed 250 pounds. And so when I said that to the students, this little girl, it was not a heavily bilingual area, but this one little girl in the group, she did speak Spanish. And so the little girl, she looked up and she was in the front. And so I guess she felt confident enough to tell me right on the spot. She said, "Sir, 250 pounds, that's still gordo." And that's not funny, Dr. E.T. You don't laugh at that, please. And so that little girl, she was like, "Sir, that's still gordo." And all the other kids, they were confused. They didn't know what she said. So they all looked at me and they said, "Sir, what did she say?" And so I didn't know what to do in that moment. And so I kind of froze just a little bit. I looked at all those students in the eyes and I told them what gordo meant. I looked them in the eyes and I said, "If you don't speak Spanish, gordo means strong." Unfortunately for me, that little girl, she yelled out instantly, the way kids can do sometimes. I'm not sure if you guys have had some crazy things being said on your Zoom meetings while you're doing your classrooms digitally, but this little girl, she yelled up and she went, "Uh-uh." And so all the kids were like, "Sir, for real, tell us what it means." And I said, "Fine, gordo means smart." And that little girl, again, she went, "Uh-uh." And so I started to become a little bit more aggravated with this little girl, and the other kids were starting to chant. They were like, sir, for real, tell us what she said." And I said, "Fine, if you don't speak Spanish, gordo means fast." And then this time the little girl, she stood up out of her chair. She wanted everyone in the school to know that I was not telling the truth. She, with attitude, she shook her hips to the side and she was like, "Gordo means fat." That's not funny, Dr. E.T. And I began to get a little watery-eyed because right before I went on stage, the principal said they had brought me in for Red Ribbon Week, so they wanted me to talk about drug prevention. But the principal said, actually, at this school, we are struggling a great amount with bullying. And so I'm here supposed to talk to these kids about not bullying. I'm the person on the stage, the hundreds of kids in the audience, and in front of all of these people, this little girl is bullying me. And so she says that gordo means fat, and I kind of admit to the whole group, I said, yes, gordo means chubby, it means husky. One little boy was like, fluffy. I said, no, that's a comedian. And so there I am in front of all these people, and I have to tell them how I get bigger. So I start telling them, I try to change the subject. I said, well, I did get bigger, I got faster, I got stronger. Do you guys want to know the secret on how I got bigger, faster, stronger? And so all these kids, they start raising their hand, yes. And so I tell them how I got bigger, how I got faster, how I got stronger, and how I got smarter. And so I tell them how in 1 year, I went from 250 pounds to 285 pounds between August to May. I got to that weight, or actually to the end of the summer. So it's about the end of June, and I'm 285 pounds. There's 2 weeks before we have to report to football camp. My coach tells me that I've had such a great year that I'm going to be the starting left tackle. That means when ESPN is there, I'm going to be the one on the field. I'm going to be the one protecting the blind side. I play left tackle. It's the position that, if you've ever seen the movie The Blind Side, that's the position that I play. If you've seen the movie The Blind Side, go ahead and put in the chat. Just put the word blind side there in the chat if you've seen the movie The Blind Side. And so that's the position that I played. My number one job is to protect the quarterback. And I have 2 weeks before I report to camp. The goal is to get to 300 pounds. My coaches don't know if I can do it, because just like I know many of the administrators have been worried, they've been wondering, well, the teachers, I know they've been performing when we have the students in person, but will it be the same when they go home, when they're doing school at home? Is it going to be the same thing? My coaches were wondering the same. They knew that I was eating, that I was working out, that I was getting bigger, faster, stronger when I was at school. But they were worried because they were sending us on vacation for 2 weeks. Would I be the kind of athlete that was going to do my part? Was I going to do the right thing? And so my coaches were worried. They were nervous, but they didn't know that when I got back to Texas, or specifically when I got down to the Rio Grande Valley, that I had a secret weapon. My secret weapon was not McDonald's, as that's a fake record that I put out there. I broke the record at McDonald's. I have eaten crazy amount of McDonald's, but that's just a fake record. And so the kids always say, they start going McDonald's. Some of them start saying Whataburger. Some say Dairy Queen. And I tell them, no. My secret weapon, she's about 5'2", my grandma. If you're out there and you have a grandma, a family member, I know Dr. Quesada, she's clapping her hands right now. She must have had a relative that makes great food. If you have a grandma that makes, or a maybe it's you, maybe you're the person at home. Go ahead and type the name of a person. Let's give a shout out to someone in our family that just, you can always count on them to make the best food. Well, my grandma, she loved me so much because, of course, I'm the oldest. And so I get extra special treatment. My grandma, she knows that I'm trying to get bigger. She knows I'm trying to get faster, stronger, smarter. And so my grandma, she makes me the breakfast of champions every single morning. And no, it's not wheaty cereal. For me, breakfast of champions was chorizo con huevo. I absolutely love that. My grandma, she'd make me that chorizo con huevo. She'd make it real good with the grease coming out of it. And so my grandma, she'd make me chorizo con huevo. I can count on her that at lunchtime I was going to get fresh arroz and frijoles. But I need to tell you my number one favorite thing that my grandmother would make me. She'd make it fresh. She'd make it homemade. She'd make it from scratch. She'd flip over these fresh homemade tortillas de harina. I'd slap on some butter on those tortillas and start to eat it. The butter would start to fall down on my shirt. Sorry, I got carried away. I'm not here just to talk about food, specifically because I learned a lesson one day. One day I was speaking at a school, and this little girl, after the speech, she came up to me. She took a little selfie with me with her phone, and then she posted it on Instagram. And the kids will say some crazy things online when they're online. And so this little girl wrote some things about me that I would never believe. This little girl, she wrote down and she put it when she tagged me in it, so I was able to see it. And so she wrote down something that I could not believe. She wrote down, "Jonathan was the best motivational speaker I've ever heard." And so I was real pumped up. I commented right back. I said, "Tell me, who else have you heard?" And then she wrote down, "You're the only one." But then she wrote down, she said, "Sir, I want you to know, after hearing your story, after hearing your speech, I'm inspired." She said how she wanted to become a leader. She wanted to go to college, how she was going to have great attendance this year. She started listing all these things that she was going to do, the commitment that she was making, all after my speech. But then she told me something. She said, "But sir, when you talked about your grandma's tortillas, I got hungry because I skipped breakfast." And so that's where I want to give that special shout out to my grandmother, Eleanor Galvan. She still to this day lives down in the valley. And anytime I'm going on a road trip, just like this past week when I went all the way up to Lubbock to go speak over there, I go and I stop at her house and she packs me a little lunch. My favorite request is always, now it's changed, it's evolved. I now have it's become a little more simple. I just want beans and eggs. So she makes me the refried beans, puts them in the taco for me, and I take off with about 8 tacos, enough for breakfast. And so my grandma, she does that for me. But I bring that all up because, I love being in the valley. I love being connected in the valley. I love how my grandmother helped me to prepare. And I think for so many of us, that idea of going to college, that idea of, for me, chasing my dreams and my goals, that was a goal that we had. It wasn't just my goal. It was my grandmother's goal. My grandfather, who was a migrant worker who raised me through high school, that was his goal. It was the goal that I would go to college. I would go and do something different that hadn't been going on in my family. So I love how in the Rio Grande Valley, specifically in places just like San Benito, I was a former student of San Benito. I went to Frank Roberts Elementary. And so, in communities just like we have all there in San Benito, we celebrate the wins that everyone has had. I've been following Dr. E.T. I've seen that her son is over at the military academy, and I've been celebrating. I've been sharing all the posts that he's been doing, and I've been liking all those photos because I believe that when we all come together, when we all celebrate the victories, it's beneficial to all of us. And so that was, for my family, a big part of it. I was going to college. That was my dream, but it was also my family's dream. They were participating. So my grandmother, she was doing her part. And so for me, it all started when I was really young. Every speech that I ever do, I always talk about what the vision was. And so today we'll go over a few things. I'll be talking about how to stay motivated even during a pandemic or even during troubling times. I'll talk about secrets to help students have success. I'm going to talk about some mistakes that even the smartest teachers that I've worked with all across the United States, that they've done to overcome, to stay happy and motivated. And so those would be some of the things. And I didn't know if Dr. Quesada was going to introduce me or not. So I wanted to be sure that I put up some of the stats for myself up there. A new one that I think I even forgot to have, Dr. Quesada. I do have a brand new best-selling book. And so it went to #1 on Amazon. It was one of the top 25 motivational books in the world when it launched. It was the #1 children's book in the world when it launched. And so I want to give that to you guys for free. Is it okay if I give that to you guys for free? Can I give you guys my book for free? It'll be the ebook. Is that okay? I need to see some yeses in the chat. Is it okay? I don't want to do it if y'all are not okay with it. If you guys are okay with it, say yes, yes. Love seeing all the yeses. And so what I want you guys to do is I want you to text me really quick. So pull out your phones. This is my personal cell phone number. Please do not share it with other people because I don't normally give out my personal cell phone number, but this is my personal cell phone number. It is 832-713-0296. And all I want you to do is tell me your name and write the word free book in the text. And I'm looking right at my phone, so I'll be able to see if you guys, I'm gonna give you guys a few seconds to do that. Because I want to give you guys my free book.
Can you repeat the number?
No, it's too late. If you didn't hear it the first time, you cannot get it. No, of course. Yes, the phone number is 832-713-0296, and you should be able to see it on the screen.
On the screen.
Right. Yes, on the top right of the slides. It is right there. And if I could have Miss Cindy, could you put it in the chat for everyone? Could you go ahead and just type in the number so that way if they want to get to that later, we're going to hear a couple of dings. So I'm going to let that stop because my laptop is connected to my cell phone and I don't know how to stop that. Just because I'm a young millennial doesn't mean I know how to use technology. Awesome, awesome. And so just like I said, I'm going to give that to you guys for free. I'm going to send you guys the ebook copy. I would ask that even though I'm giving it to you for guys for free, if you would write a comment, go to the Amazon link and just write that, you know, that the book is amazing, support a kid from the Valley, a former San Benito student who I want to keep that book highly ranked. And I just made my first book order. We have 1,000 going to schools in the Waco area. The region ESC ordered 1,000 books for all of their schools in the area. And so, Dr. E.T., I'm going to ask you to tell me how I can convince Region 1 to do the same thing for our schools in the Valley. But, okay, no more texting. No, but I did want to ask you guys, I start every single speech with this topic. I asked, what is your vision for 2020? People were hyping up 2020. People were talking about 2020. They were saying that this was going to be the year of vision. So I want to know, what is your vision? What is your vision? Because I know in San Benito, unlike a lot of other schools that I've been to this year, I've been doing digital stuff for a lot of school districts, and many school districts, they have given up on 2020 already. I know that's not the case in San Benito. I know you guys are going to continue to push and do things. So I want you to write down in the chat, write down some goals, a vision that you have for you, for your students in 2020. One of my favorite books, I read it first thing in the morning every single day. I open it up, and in that book, it says that without a vision, the people perish. And so that quote for me, I change it up. I say, without a vision, the students lose. And so I need many of your students, sometimes they come to school, maybe they don't have parents that have helped them to have a vision. Maybe they've not thought about their future, their goals, their vision. I want you to help create the vision for our students. I want you to help push them so that way they can accomplish their goals. Maybe one of the days that you're working with your students, you help them to actually do that themselves. Maybe one of the goals that you do during a Zoom meeting is to actually talk to them about their vision, because we might have a goal and a vision for them, but if they don't have it, they're not following a plan. It's just like if I was traveling this past week to Lubbock, Texas, or it was actually to Dimmitt, Texas. And so if I was going all the way up to Dimmitt and I didn't have the GPS, I would not have been able to get there. There was actually a time where there was no service and I missed one turn and it started to reroute and I lost the map for just 1 second. And I was scared out of my mind because I did not know how to get to the area. It was snowing, there was ice on the roads. And so I'm going on a path where I don't know where I'm going. I don't know the roads. And now I've lost my map for just a second. It started to reload. It said it's rerouting, but then I could see on the top left corner that I had no connection to the internet. And so I want to know, what is your 2020 vision? And then you don't have to type this one out, but I want you to think about, what is your 2025 vision? You know, where in 2025, the students that you work with, where will they be in their life? What are they going to be graduating? Are they going to be in high school? I don't know what age group that you work with, but what is 5 years from now? What is the vision for them 5 years from now? And then if we're going to go all the way 20 years from now, what is the vision that you have for those students? What is the vision that you have for them? What kind of goals do you have for them? How are you going to help to push them? How are you going to support them this year so that way they can prepare themselves, so that way they can be in 2040 successful? You know, I want you guys to think about how you're preparing your students, not just for them to finish this year, not for them just to survive during COVID, but I want you to think about how you're going to help them to thrive, how they're going to go and become amazing community members, how they're going to go and have amazing families, how they're going to have amazing careers, how they're going to, maybe they're the first ones in their family to go to college, or maybe they continue a legacy. They're the second and third generation that's going to college. How is the work that you do with them going to prepare them for that future, that vision? And so I love seeing it. I want to read some of them. I love that Maria said, oh, it's gone now. Mr. Garza said, in 2025, my students will be in middle school, and I want them to be dedicated students who work hard to achieve their goals. I love it. Ida, I love how you say success and support. I love how you use alliteration right there. And then Elsa, I would love to see all our students be professional, working in our community, giving back, and having skills to be persistent, generous, kind, and changing the world. And so that's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to have that vision. And I want to tell you guys about my freshman year. There's someone in your school district. I heard that they may have retired last year, but there was someone that changed my life. I remember when I was in 9th grade, I was getting ready. I had gone, I didn't tell you guys my vision when I was in 7th grade. I wanted to be a great student. I wanted to be a great athlete. I had a vision that I was going to go to college and be a college athlete. And so in 7th grade, when I get my shoulder pads on, I put my helmet on, I look in the mirror and I'm like, man, I'm a stud. But unfortunately for me, my coach, he looked at me and he saw me exactly how I was. He saw me and he saw an athlete that was slow. He saw me and he saw that I was bigger than the other kids, but I didn't know what to do. He saw that I was weak, even though I was big, I was weak. I had never worked out. And so my coach saw me exactly where I was. And he put a big, huge letter B next to my name, because that was his job. He had to grade me, and he put a big, huge letter B next to my name. If you don't know, there's the A team, and then there is the B team. Obviously, the B team stands for the better team. And so my coach put, no, of course, I was on the bad team. It's not funny, Courtney. And so my coach put me on the bad team. And I was sad, I was depressed, but my coach told me it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And so what I want you to think about is your kids right now in 2020. Yes, maybe this has been an incredibly tough year. Maybe this has been a year where there's been extra challenges, but I want you to also remember, you know, it's not where they start, it's where they finish. You know, there's so many things that you have been learning this year that you can apply to all your future years. There's so many things that you have learned while being a part of this symposium that you can apply to your campus. So maybe you didn't start the year with all the lessons that our different keynotes and our different workshop presenters have taught you, but you can take the rest of this year, you can take the rest of 2021, and you could apply all of those things so that way you can become the teacher, become the educator that you know that you can be. And so I want you to take all the things that you learn and start to apply it, because for me, that's exactly what happened as an athlete. I went from being short, I was tall, but I was chubby, weak, and slow, and I didn't know where to go, to by the time I'm in 9th grade, I'm now one of the leaders. Puberty has kicked in really good for me, so I'm standing big, I'm strong, I'm fast, and I'm one of the leaders on the team. And so all summer long, I'm gathering all of the players when I'm a freshman in high school. I'm gathering all the players because we are going to take the Rio Grande Valley by storm. We're going to go and create a legacy for our team. We're so pumped, we're so excited. And I would actually run every single day to school. By then, I was no longer in San Benito. I was no longer in Harlingen. We had spent some time in Houston. We moved around a lot, but I am a freshman in Rio Hondo. And all summer long, I'm staying with one of my best friends, and we gather a whole bunch of guys, and we would actually jog together to the school. And we'd have a bunch of us jogging to school because we saw potential in ourselves. We were believing in ourselves. And we said that this is going to be the year that we take Rio Hondo to the top. And as I'm getting to the school, I see my grandfather's truck sitting right outside. I see my grandfather's truck, and I want to, and I'm not sure if you have grandparents like this, but my grandfather, he loves sweets. And so anytime I saw my grandfather, he gave me some money so I can get some ice cream, or he would take me to go get donuts. And so I didn't know anything about actual nutrition. So I didn't know that those would be bad things as an athlete, but I was just like, I want sugar, I want cookies, I want donuts. My grandfather loved sweets, probably why he was diabetic. My grandfather loved sweets. And so I'm thinking, I'm gonna go see my grandfather and he's gonna take me to go get some sweets. And so I tell the guys, it's a restaurant right across the street. I tell the guys, go inside and I'm gonna go see my grandfather. And I go see my grandfather and instantly he looks at me, he says, Mijo, I've been looking for you. I have sweat coming down the side of my face because we've been running. I'm breathing heavy. And I'm confused because I didn't know my grandfather was looking for me. And he tells me, I've been looking for you because your mom is going to jail. And your mom's gonna go to jail for a long time. And I remember thinking to myself, I had this vision, this dream, this goal of what this year was going to be like. And all of a sudden, just like that, it seemed like everything was going to change. I know for many people this year, that's exactly how this year has been. Maybe it's your students, maybe it's you yourself. With all the talk of 2020 vision, people, you probably wrote goals. Even if you hadn't done it in a long time, you probably did it for this year. 2020 was supposed to be the year of vision, and just like that, COVID seemed to take everything away. Just like that, it seemed like everything changed. And I remember that exact feeling when I was a student, that just like that, everything changed, everything was different. And so that year, there was this one particular teacher, this one counselor that I wanted to share with you guys. His name was Mr. Cortez. I believe he was a counselor recently in San Benito, but back when I was in school, he was in Rojondo. And if I was speaking in person, I would have us, I'd put Dr. Quesada, I'd put her to go probably against someone like Gabriel, and have them going right up against each other. If you see on the top right, it's a drill called the Oklahoma drill. So I would have actually, I don't know if Dr. Quesada's ever done it, but I would put Dr. Quesada in a 3-point stance, and she would have to compete against Gabriel. And so I'd put them up against each other if we were in person, and I'd make them go up against one another. And I tell them first, the tip, if you want to win in the Oklahoma drill, is you have to get low. And so I want you to think about what your students have been going through this year. I want you to think about it, and I want you to share it. Don't put names if you don't want to, but just share in the chat. What are some of the things that you have seen, or you've seen your students say, maybe you've heard your parents say, or maybe you yourself have witnessed for yourself? What are some of the difficult things that your students are going through this year? And so I'm going to give you some time in the chat. So I see isolation. I see online learning is hard. I've seen students that's depression right there. Isla Muniz. I've seen people say depressed. I've seen people say distracted. Yes, social emotional stuff. Kids are saying they're sad. Very, very difficult things. Maybe they lost a parent to COVID. I myself, my grandmother, she passed away because of COVID. So I know that this has been, people are dying, isolation, maybe they feel unsupported. I think one of the things that people don't necessarily say is the fear. There's kids who are, maybe they're afraid to start school, or maybe they're afraid to be at home so much. There's a lot of fear out there. And so one of the things that Mr. Cortez did for me is he got low. He didn't go from being just a counselor. He got low. He understood what I was going through. He pursued getting to know me. He pursued getting to know my situation. He pursued getting to know my goals. And so he went from being the counselor that was just working with all students, but I know that for me, he specifically took time to support me. He took time to make sure that I was okay. He took time to make sure that I was on track. For me, Mr. Cortez was one of the most important people in a year where I was having tremendous changes, tremendous difficulty. Mr. Cortez helped me because he got low. He connected with me, and he understood what I was going through. So one of the things that I always talk to educators about is I want you to be the kind of educator that gets low, get to know your students, really understand what they're going through right now in this situation. And so some simple ways that people always ask me, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay positive? For me, this year was one of the crazy years. For me, it's my passion. It's what I believe my life calling is, to go and motivate schools, go motivate students. It's also my business. So my personal income really depends on being able to go to events, being able to go to schools. And when everything shut down, I was afraid. When everything shut down, I was a little nervous. When everything shut down, I had to figure out how to stay positive. And so some of the things that I did, I wake up every morning and I make sure that I'm reading that book that gives me my motivational messages. I wake up and I put on YouTube videos that motivate me. And so I created that for a lot of the schools that I work with. I created where every single week they're going to have motivational videos. And so I had to figure out a way to help schools to stay positive, even during a pandemic. And then I had to, one of the ways that I always try to remember is to show them examples over and over. And so really quickly in the chat, I want you to write down some students where you have experienced tremendous victory, some students who have done a great job, some students who you would say, they started off, maybe they weren't a great student and then they became a great student. Now, maybe they started off and they were struggling, but then they became a great student. And so for me, that was the same exact thing. So I think of things in the past, other people that I've seen, how they have gone from being not successful. Maybe they felt like they were being losers and they turned it around. Maybe they converted what was going on. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think of all these examples. Think of stories. I want you to share some names of students that have really made that big turnaround. I know many of you guys have probably had years of teaching, so you have stories of kids who have struggled and then they became a college student. Maybe you had students who were, they were getting in trouble and then they became a good citizen. So I want you to do that right now. I want you to think of those names. You don't have to share it, but I want you to think of those names. I went to one school, and this one teacher, he had on his wall all the students that had gone on to college that he had taught. He would put a picture on that, and he told me that every single time that he does not feel motivated, every single time that he feels overstressed, every single time that he feels bitter, every single time that he is not being positive, he looks at the wall and he remembers the success that he's had in the past as an educator. And then when students come up to him and they have problems, when they're not motivated, he points to that same wall. So he uses it for himself, for personal motivation, but then he also uses it to show the students, here's someone who is just like you. Let me tell you about David. Let me tell you about Luis. Let me tell you about Sarah. Let me tell you about Stephanie. And he uses that same example to motivate himself, but to also motivate the students. And so I want you to remember to all those little victories that you've had in the past are ways that you can use to motivate yourself and also your students. And then in a lot of motivational things that people ask, they say, how do you figure out your passion? How do you figure out your dreams? How do you figure out your goals? And so I would love for you guys to actually work with your students. I mentioned it before. I want you to actually help your students to cultivate, help them to figure out what are their dreams, what are their goals, remind them over and over. One of the first chapters of my book is all about goals. And so one of the quotes, I went from being a LeBron James hater to I've been kind of a lover recently. And so I used to hate on LeBron. I loved it when the Spurs beat them in the championships. But recently, I thought the hate has gotten too strong. But one of the things that LeBron James said, he has this goal of becoming the all-time greatest. He says he has year-long goals, an ultimate goal. He has a short-term goal, a daily goal. And so he works on his long-term goal to win the championship. I would even argue that one of his even greater goals is to be the all-time greatest. And so he has this all-time goal, then he has his year-long goal, and then he has his daily goal. And so he works on that, and he makes sure that his teammates are also doing it. And so I listened to Dr. E.T. yesterday. She talked about having a community. And so that's what I want you guys to do, is I want you to have that community. LeBron James says he works towards making himself better every day, but he also works to make sure that his teammates are getting better every single day. So I want you guys to make friends, make community, and do exactly just that. I want you to create a community where together you all can have your dreams and goals, and you can also help your students to have those dreams and goals. And then for me, this is an extra little bonus. I put myself with great quotes all around me all the time. So I make sure that I'm daily and constantly looking at quotes. I have pictures of things that I put quotes all the time. So one of the quotes that my grandfather gave me before he left, I didn't share it, but that was my freshman year. My grandfather had to take me in. I lived with my grandfather instead of living with my mom. And my grandfather was a migrant worker, so every day I'm working in the fields. And my grandfather actually chooses to continue to be a migrant worker. He leaves to South Carolina and he leaves me all by myself. before he goes, he tells me this quote that I share all across the United States. My grandfather told me, en esta vida hay que luchar. So real quickly right now, I want everyone to type in the chat, type the word luchar just over and over, just type it in the chat. I do want to tell the story of, I make the kids repeat it in a lot of places that I go. I make them scream, I make them yell, I make them slap their chest, and I make them say, luchar! I'm not gonna make you guys do that today because I know some of you guys are at work, and so if other people are not in the same seminar that we're in right now, they're gonna be confused. Why are you screaming and yelling? But if you wanna do it, go ahead. And so I make all these kids yell on the count of 3. And so we'll do it here right now. I'm not gonna ask you to unmute. I'm just gonna have you guys do it. Everyone say luchar on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, luchar! I had a school do that, and all the kids, I was in Corpus Christi, West also. And so there's a few Hispanic kids, but not a lot. And so all the kids, they were like, luchar. And so I normally would have made all of you guys say it just like those kids in Corpus Christi, West also, make them go, luchar. Yes, it is funny, Liliana. But really quick, I want to ask you guys a quick favor. I have a new book that's coming out. I'm already working on my next book. It's called the Student Leadership Success Challenge. And I want to get quotes from all of you. If you have a favorite quote that you would love for me to include in the book, this leadership challenge is going to be full of quotes. And so if you have a quote, go ahead and type it right now in the chat. Just put your favorite quote right now. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to do that. And then if you have not already done this, my number is up there because we're about to close. And so we're about to do the final part. And so I want you guys, if you have not already requested the free book, if you need one more shot, if you wanted to see first, if I was a good speaker at all first, before you committed to asking for my book and it is a short, easy read. And so I'd love for all of you guys, I love that many of these are bilingual, they're in Spanish. And so my grandfather taught me that quote. He told me, en esta vida hay que luchar. And so I took that, and every single day I applied it. I took the tips that Mr. Mr. Cortez had for me, and I said, I'm going to fight and wrestle for the goals that Mr. Cortez has helped me to accomplish. I'm going to fight and wrestle so I can get into the schools that he's helping me to get into. I'm going to fight and wrestle. I'm going to luchar for all of my dreams, my goals, my vision. And so many students right now, maybe they've given up on their dreams. Maybe they've given up on their goals. I ask that you help them to luchar. Maybe you've been struggling yourself. I know that I've seen many teachers posting online on Facebook. I took an unofficial poll, so not a real scientific. I was a sociology major. I didn't want to do a real legit poll, but I did ask all my educator friends, and so many of them said they were themselves struggling to continue to fight and wrestle. So I want you to continue to fight and wrestle for yourself, wrestle for your students, and wrestle for the entire school district. There's a lot of people out there that say that this generation of students, that they're not any good. There's a lot of people out there that say a lot of negative things about our teachers. But my goal is to create an entire movement that all of you guys would be champions. One of the famous TED Talks for educators, the lady says that every child needs a champion. One of my friends, he shares a Harvard study, and he talks about how every person that has been a president, every person that's ever been successful, has had at least one caring, one consistent person. For me, I had multiple, but Mr. Cortez was caring, and he was consistent for me. My Coach Guzman, he was caring and he was consistent. I don't know why I can't say that right now. Consistent. And so I want you guys to be that champion for those students. I want you to be the champion that is consistently there. I want you to be the champion that cares for your students. And I want to be there to support you. So if you have my number, if you ever need anything else from me, I want to be there to support you. But I always end every single speech that I do with a push-up. And so I'm going to ask everyone to quickly write in the chat, write this acronym. It's when I speak to teachers, it's PUSSH. When I speak to students, it's only one S. But everyone in the chat, write the word PUSSH. It's push. And so I'm going to have everyone do that in the chat, and then I'm going to close by closing this right here. But the acronym stands for persevere until school success happens. And I'm going to put us in gallery view. Let me take off the sharing really quickly. Oh, where did I do it with the screen? I put too many things up. Where is my Zoom? Well, I want everyone.
Go to the bottom. Go to the bottom. There should be the little Zoom button in the bottom.
Here we go. Oh, it's on top. I moved it to the top. So I'm gonna stop sharing and I want to see all of us in the gallery. So everyone wrote the acronym PUSH. And again, it stands for persevere until school success happens. And so I need you to put your screens on and I'm gonna have you guys stand up where you are. We're all gonna do it together. So everyone stand where you are, stand where we can see you. And of course, I'm gonna be like any millennial student. I'm gonna take a photo of this. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna turn sideways with me and you're gonna put your hands forward like if you were doing the push-up with me. So normally I'd have someone and we'd go and they'd be standing on me. I'm so very grateful for Zoom meetings because I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to do a push-up with someone standing on me. Now it is strictly, we all participate together. So everyone turn to the side so that way you could be seen so we can see your arms and hands. And I'm gonna take a quick photo of everyone. And then I'm actually gonna unmute all. Let's see. Okay, I messed up the unmute, but we're all gonna stand aside and where you are, we're all gonna scream and we're gonna yell and everyone say push on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, push! I heard some of you guys, I love it. 1, 2, 3, push! And last, you gotta do it super loud. Make the person in the room next to you be confused, not understand. I want them to ask you questions later. What were you doing? And one last time, all together, everyone say push on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, push! Thank you guys all so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be with all of you guys. Thank you, Dr. Quesada, for having me. You guys are all champions. I believe that this is going to be a year that people are going to talk about how they're going to ask in the history books. They're going to say, what was it like in 2020? And I believe that everyone here, I believe that Tara, I believe that Camille, I believe that Elsa, all of you guys here today are going to say that 2020 was a difficult year, but that was the year that I helped my students to push. And you're going to have stories of students who, even though this year has been incredibly difficult, you're going to tell people, I had a student that year, they still went on to college. They still went on and became whatever careers that you have in mind for them, whatever you're gonna push them to, they're gonna go have amazing careers. And it's all because you decided to push. It's because you decided to help them to have a vision. So I'm so grateful to all of you guys. Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you for being the kind of teachers and educators that are gonna push and go beyond. And I think someone invited Mr. Cortez on right now.
Is he on?
So Mr. Cortez is joined. Did someone make you come on, Mr. Cortez?
I'm trying to get him in here for you, but he was on a parent conference.
Oh.
I've been working on it since he started talking about it. He's trying to get on.
I just admitted it in, but
where does he work now?
I believe he's at one of the high schools down.
He's here at San Benito High School.
At the high school.
Jonathan.
Hello, Mr. Cortez. Thank you so
How
much.
you doing?
So everyone here, they just heard me tell a story of how you were so instrumental, how you helped me to accomplish my dreams and goals. I remember, me going to college, many people would say that would be completely impossible with my parents going to prison. And I got to go to this prestigious school. So Mr. Cortez, thank you so much. When I took a photo with you about 1.5 years ago, I left and I cried in the parking lot. I didn't want to cry in front of you, but I was in tears in my car because I remember how big of an impact you made for me. So Mr. Cortez, thank you so much.
Well, Jonathan, I'm very humbled, and I want to let you know that you are an exceptional person, and honestly, you did it all by yourself, Jonathan. I was just there to guide you a little bit, but you were an exceptional student. You overcame so many obstacles in your life, and you're a great, great young man. And you're a great inspiration to so many, many students. I've seen your presentations, and believe me, I care so much about you, like if you were my own son. You know that.
Yes, sir.
But you did it. You did it by yourself. I mean, you were strong, and like I said, I remember that you were there. Your grandfather was always there for you. And you went to Georgetown. Imagine from Rio Hondo High School to Georgetown. That was an incredible accomplishment. And like I said, I mean, you did it by yourself, son, honestly. And it was so easy. to have someone as motivated as you were, because you didn't care if you didn't have all that support at home, but you had your granddad. I remember you had your granddad, and I love you like my own son. You know that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Show your face, Mr. Cortez, so he can.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened with this laptop. This laptop. There's something wrong with the video, so I'm very sorry.
Well, Mr. Cortez,
But thank you, Jonathan, for remembering me.
yes, sir. Of course.
And
I've shared that story to school districts all across the United States of America.
I know you do. I've seen your presentations, believe me. And I'm very proud of you, and very proud of you. You also wrote a book, right? How many books have you written?
This is my second one, but
Yes, I know.
I'll be bringing you a copy autographed, sir.
Tremendous, tremendous, Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
You're an awesome young man, and look at you now. You're changing lives, and you're an inspiration to very many students. Thank you so much for everything, and thank you for remembering me. Even though I played a very small part. As far as I'm concerned, it was a very small part, but you did it all by yourself, son, and it was so easy. You were so motivated. You were so motivated to do something great in life, and look what you're doing. You're an inspiration to many students. But thank you, Jonathan, for remembering me. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You take care.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez.
Well, I didn't expect us to end this crying. We started all laughing and pumped up and motivating, and you did both, Jonathan. You touched all of us. And we thank you, and we are grateful for you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and driving back from Lubbock to meet with us. It was an extremely powerful, beautiful message of success. And for us to know that you came to San Benito, that is huge, that is big. And you are showing us what a great person you are by acknowledging the people that touched your heart, and that you are a grateful person. And that is a great message to all of us as educators as well. So we thank you very much.